Barbara, welcome to our first of our Lent interviews this year in 2024. Thank you for agreeing to come and do this. We're interviewing someone each week during Lent and asking them about their faith. So our first question for you is, how did you discover a Christian faith?
It's sort of been a lifetime discovery, and I'm still discovering. But I think it started when I was a child with my mother, who has had a great faith. That's one thing that really kept her going. So she would talk to me about Jesus and about trusting and things like that. And then gradually I decided that I'd like to be confirmed. And I was living in an area with a very high church. So I had to learn how to genuflect and cross myself, and had a nice white veil on when I was confirmed, which sort of made it feel real. But and then I kept a focus of Christian faith throughout my life in going to a teacher training college that was Christian based. It was in Salisbury, and it's sort of grown as things have come along. When I decided to train as a reader, well, I don't think I really decided to train as a reader. I think I was decided. Then it sort of clicked in, everything clicked into place nicely, and I still question, because otherwise it's, you can get complacent. But I feel like I have got a strong faith, and it does help me to keep going.
Have there been times of conflict between life as you live it and Christian faith? And sort of, if there have been times, I don't know whether you're able to describe a time, if there has been one, and how you sort of navigated your way through that.
Well, I think there's always conflict, because we're not perfect. The only person who's perfect is Christ. I don't even aspire to Mary Poppins practically perfect, only sometimes. And there's always the conflict between good and bad, or good and evil, whatever you want to call it, or the devil, who likes to get in and have his go. I can't think of anything specific. I think probably the most times where you can get conflict is when you're tired and you just want to say, oh bother, and you say, sorry God, I didn't mean it, I don't mean oh bother to you, I was just saying oh bother generally. And I think I've been very lucky, because I tend to avoid conflict anyway, slide from under. Even when I've been out wearing my dog collar, I haven't had anyone who's come up to me and said, what are you wearing that for? Because I tell them quite happily. So I'm aware the conflict is there. It's all the time. In some ways, it's in everything you do, because you're saying to yourself, what's right, what's wrong, making those decisions throughout the day.
And I think maybe an extension of that, isn't it, is in, you mentioned when you're tired, sometimes the easier choice is the life choice, and the harder choice is the Christian faith choice, because sometimes requires more work.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
And more self-control.
To get my halo polished.
If you had a message for anyone exploring faith, what would that message be?
Well, to keep exploring, because as I said, for my faith journey, it's still continuing. There are still things which I'm learning now, which I think is wonderful. Little revelations from the Bible, from things people have said when you're planning a service. Speaking personally there, there's always something new you can find. And it is to keep exploring, not to give up, and not to be afraid to question anybody. say, why do you believe this? What do you believe in? Even if you think it's a silly question, no questions are silly when it comes to faith. And I always like to think it's we have a God shape or Christ shape hole within us, and that it needs to be filled. It is there. If you like, there's the candle there, but the candle needs to be lit. And once you've lit the candle, then you have to keep the flame going. And that's partly your efforts, but I think it's mostly God. Because once you've said, I acknowledge you, Lord, he doesn't let you go. You might wriggle a bit and say, not today, but he doesn't let you go, which is so wonderful. And I always think that the times when you're doubting, because sometimes I've gone out for a walk with Smudge and thought, now, why do I believe all this? Is it real? It can't possibly be real. And then you can feel, or the confirmation that it is real is there within you. And I find that talking to God as a friend, not in churchy words or praying words, just talking to God. He must get very fed up with me sometimes because I rabbit onto him most of the day. Talking to God as a friend is it's just so wonderful that we can do that, and that helps to put the little building blocks of faith in. And once you feel, because faith is a feeling, because it's not tangible. You can't say, oh, I'll have that much faith today. It's something you recognise within you, which other people might recognise in you, which then confirms it and builds another layer of that foundation. And then you keep building, through life, like, my faith journey, you keep building on it. And not to give up, because it's not an insurance policy, but it's a wonderful wonderful to think that in your darkest days you think of a salvation that God has brought us through Jesus Christ, and it's just so amazing and so wonderful.
And that's really good. So, just to sort of summarise that bit, if somebody was looking to sort of explore their faith, is don't give up, keep asking the questions of other people, even if you think they're stupid, and the question, not the person, and also enable that flame to be ignited, and once it's ignited, some way of keeping that wax going, and building those building blocks of faith. Well, that's really good, Barbara. I'm really sorry we've come to the end of our time, but thank you very much for joining us, and it's been very much appreciated.